Jenny. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday, everyone. Hope y'all are having a fantastic week. And if you're in the South, I hope you're staying cool, which is a very hard feat right now. Anyways, Michelle and I are very excited to be here with you guys. And in true form, we're going to dive right in and start discussing this week's wine pick. I apologize, you guys. I am not a language person. I really wish that I was. I'm going to try really hard not to butcher this grape, Škirlet. It is an indigenous Croatian grape. I love Croatian wine, you guys. It was largely undiscovered for me for a really long time, but I've recently discovered it, and it is literally the perfect summer wine. Škirlet is an indigenous grape, like I mentioned, and it has a lot of like minerality focus. There's going to be some peaches, some pear, super zippy, super light, perfect for hot weather. It's also done in stainless, which is going to be a pretty consistent theme for me throughout the summer because who wants to drink a heavy wine when it's this hot? I was just chatting with Michelle before this, and like I didn't even notice this. I've been drinking this wine for quite some time. I never read the bottle, but I'm just going to read the bottle to you guys because it literally sums it up, and it's a poem. So who doesn't love that? It says, sunny days, pears and peaches, summer vibes, chill on beaches, sushi, salty, spicy snack, pour Škirlet with all of that. So like, who doesn't love somebody who is creative enough, A, to write a poem, and B, they gave you the pairings right there, guys. Because literally all of those things are the pairings that you should have with this wine.
Love it. It's such a cute poem.
It's literally one of my favorites. So highly recommend. Oh, and we'll get to the podcast today, which is Ballin on a Budget. But literally, speaking of Ballin on a Budget, this wine is so affordable and it drinks so elegant. So if you guys are looking to like impress when you go to a party and you want to bring somebody something that is just really elevated and elegant and has a lot of personality, but you want to pay less than $15, this is the vibe. So love this one. And without further ado, we're going to get into the rose and the thorn for the week. I'm going to have Michelle start us out.
Okay. So my rose of the week, it was Father's Day on Sunday. So I was able to take my dad to Arthur Avenue in the Bronx, which is the little Italy of the Bronx. And it was so much fun.
I love that.
We walked up and down the street like an hour and a half, just grabbing like little goodies. I might have gained a few pounds just in the trip. We stopped for pizza like 11 a.m. and we split like 3 slices, but it was over and all a good day. So that was my rose of the week. My thorn of the week was I had a package stolen for me, and it actually contained my outfit for the Shania Twain concert, which I'm going to next week. So now I'm going to have to scramble to find a new one.
That is literally the worst because I'm sure there's like sparkles all over it, like very Shania Twain-esque.
Yes, exactly. And now I have only like less than a week to get a new outfit. So I might have to be ordering one from Amazon. So we love their delivery.
You know, you gotta love Prime. I'm going to a birthday party later this month that is 2000s themed. And I was like perusing all over Prime for like all like the cherry tops and like all of those like those flip-flops that we wore that had like a heel on them. The worst stuff. Amazon will come in clutch for you guys.
They will.
That really sucks about your package. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Get over it.
We'll have to just get another one.
Exactly. All right, Jenny, why don't you tell us your rose and thorn of the week?
Yes. So my rose of last week it was brought to my attention that Southwest Airlines was having their annual sale, which I'm not sure if that's good news or bad news, but I like went a little bit ham on the sale. I booked the rest of my business travel for the year, which is great because I was able to get some really awesome deals. And then my husband is from Louisiana originally, which for those of you who have been to Louisiana or spent any amount of time, there's a lot of pride surrounding that. And it's just like such a fun culture, depending on where you are. So we booked a trip to New Orleans, and we haven't been there since like our first trip ever when we started dating was to New Orleans. So I think we got a round trip ticket for both of us for like sub $220, which is like literally insane. I was super stoked about that. Definitely my rose for last week. And my thorn, I promise this is not me having a lack of originality, but I am literally melting in Texas. Like it's been over 100 degrees for like the entire past 2 weeks. You can't do anything outside. Literally the only saving grace is like jumping into a body of water. And every single year I forget how bad it is. That's my thorn.
Oh, no. That is not good. I cannot do that. I feel for you.
It's like 3 months out of the year and you just have to like grin and bear it. But alas, whatever. I'll get over it. And then I'll probably quit complaining about how cold it is very soon. So
exactly.
First world problems.
Exactly. I am so glad though that your rose has something to do with today's topic, a little bit about vacation budgeting.
I know,
isn't it spending? So yeah,
isn't it so serendipitous how the universe seems to just like stack that right on up for us? I'm obsessed with it.
Yes.
Well, before we dive into the topic, obviously our quote queen has to have something to say.
Yes. So this week's quote is brought to us by Benjamin Franklin, and if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. This is one of my favorite quotes because I am a planning freak. I'm sure Jenny knows, but it is so important to plan, not only within your finances, but overall in life, and that brings me much happiness. Planning.
I did not know that was OG Ben Franklin. Like,
yeah.
So Taylor Swift recently quoted that in one of her songs, and yeah, she did. And I was just like dying because I've been doing, one of my best friends is obsessed with her. And I've been doing a really deep dive into T Swift these days and the lyrical genius that she is. So yeah, now I know who to credit that quote to.
Yeah. There you go.
I love it. Okay, so our topic today is balling on a budget, you guys. So we're going to be diving into creating a budget for travel, for life, for extravagant dinners, if you will, kind of like digging into the nuance of it's okay to spend on the things that bring you joy and happiness so long as you plan for them. So Michelle, who is our resident financial expert, is going to be diving into a lot of the things that can give you peace of mind surrounding that. She's going to talk about vacation travel, spending tips, and then even some side hustles, how you can increase your income. She's mainly going to be sharing, with all the expertise that she's gleaned over the years, but I'm also going to be asking her some questions. So we're going to kick off with a question that is really near and dear to both of us. And I kind of want her to walk you guys through. Michelle, tell us a little bit about why budgeting is so important to you.
Yeah. So I really, truly believe that budgeting is that first foundational layer of all of your finances. And really, if you want to take control of your finances, you really want to begin there. And I remember I taught this to myself first. That's the first thing that I want to, help my clients with, is creating a budget and helping them stick to it. Once we want to get into all those fun financial things like investing, being in the stock market, retirement planning. But first of all, we have to have our budgets under control, making sure that we're living within our means. And yes, that's another thing that I am so I stress this so much, but always want to make sure that you're living within your means. You don't, like Jenny was saying, you want to spend money on things that make you happy, but you don't also want to go over control where now you're derailing your financial goals and your financial future. And like I said, it's really the foundation of your finances. And before we could tackle those financial goals, make other financial decisions, you want to have your budget set and clear, and you know what you want from it.
So Michelle, kind of digging into this because you have a different background than I do. And I feel like a lot of these principles were taught more to me by somebody like you. So I guess I'm curious, how did you start to implement some of these strategies with regard to budgeting? How did you learn to budget for yourself?
Yeah, so I actually started right when I graduated college, and I actually had a budget binder. And what I would do, I would print out just like weekly sheets and stick them in a budget binder, I would call it. And every week I would go over my income and expenses and just make sure that I was creating a good budget for myself, to stick with. And like I said, I just got out of college. I started to make a decent salary, and I wanted to be able to live within my means and also start saving up for like bigger purchases that I wanted to buy. And I started, working when I was 14 actually, and I remember begging my mom for a job. And at first it was so funny. So at first she was like, "No, you're too young. You have to, you know, just stick with your schoolwork after school." And I was like, "Mom, please, like I promise I'll have all my schoolwork done. Please just let me work." So once I started getting, my own money, I was like, okay, this is really cool. And that kind of stuck with me, and I just grew to, knowing I wanted to save it, not blow it away, make sure that I could buy bigger purchases in the future.
What was your first job?
My first job. So when I was 14, I was actually a cashier at a supermarket.
Oh my gosh.
Very fun. Yes.
I love it. And I love that the direction that you took it was like, let's learn about budgeting. My first job, I was like, how many pairs of shoes can I buy?
I was like, that's funny. No, I'm sure, I wanted to buy the shoes too. I was just making sure that I had enough money saved for it.
But, some of us are just wired differently, you guys.
Exactly.
So kind of on that same vein, I think that a lot of people have a lot of stress surrounding budgeting, and they avoid it, right? Like they don't really necessarily know how to get started. It sounds like you got started at a really young age and you were able to kind of implement that moving forward. But what advice would you give to the people who maybe have some avoidance tactics or maybe just a little bit of fear surrounding budgeting, and they don't necessarily know where to begin?
Right. So let me just preface this, but it takes a lot of discipline and commitment to get started with a budget, and you're not going to have it down pat, within the first time you do it. It's going to take a few months to really get control of how much income is coming in, what are my monthly expenses, how much discretionary income do I have. And like I said, you have to be really disciplined and committed. So either sit down weekly to go over that, or you could do it at the end of the month just to make sure that you're sticking within that budget. And I'll go over some tips in a few minutes on how to create your budget. Well, but I really think the biggest piece of advice is just sticking with it. And, you don't have to, create a full plan right away. You could start small and then build up into a full financial budget. But just getting started is the key thing. And there's, a lot of tips online. You could, schedule an appointment with a financial advisor who will help you create your budget. On the internet, there's a lot of tips and tricks, not all good, I must say. So you have to make sure you're going to reliable sources, but you can find a program for you. And there are a ton of apps now out there. Like I know Mint is one that can help you stick to it. Even just creating an Excel sheet, that's what I actually do now. I upgraded from my budget binder to now an Excel sheet it's super easy. I sit down weekly. I put in all my info at the end of the month. I'm tracking it just to make sure that I'm not going over my limit.
So clear up this for us, because I think a lot of people don't understand that when they work with a financial advisor, that a financial advisor like yourself can help you with this, right? Can walk you through and identify what your fixed costs are, what your variable costs are, how much you should be putting away. Is that something that you help to advise your clients on?
Yes. So that's actually one of the first steps when I meet with my clients. And this happens during one of our first meetings is we'll set up a budget together. So I want them to bring, all of their expenses with them, all of their income. And we actually sit down together and do it. So it's not so painful on them. Then they could ask me questions and I help them, see what their goals are, what's important to them, how much do they want to save, and then we create a plan that they stick to. And every so often we will review and just make sure that they're staying on track. A lot of clients like me to hold them accountable, so just make sure that they're sticking to it. But like I said, so that's really that first foundational layer that most advisors are going to help you with starting off.
That's amazing. And I think, again, like I said, that's lost on a lot of people because they feel like they have to do it all by themselves. And maybe they have this perception that an advisor is really only going to help them at a higher level. And a good advisor is going to help you and give you a foundation and provide you with the educational backdrop that maybe you don't have. So you guys can work together. Okay. So one of the other questions I wanted to ask you, kind of piggybacking off of that, and I think you're going to get into it, but I'm anxious to hear your thoughts on it. Walk us through a little bit of how you help to create your budget or your client's budget from a tactical perspective.
Okay. Yes. So first you want to start with looking at where your income is coming in from. So you're looking at what you're getting paid from your salary, your side hustles, which we'll actually be talking about later, and how to start some side hustles to get extra income coming in. Then also your investments, if you're getting any dividends or interest from that. You then want to write out all of your monthly expenses. So that could be anything from your credit card bills, loans, how much you're spending in groceries, transportation, gas. You really want to have a clear picture of everything that you spend your money on each month. After you have that, you then want to create some short-term and long-term financial goals. So that could be anything from your emergency savings fund, which is a really important fund for you to have. We always like to tell our clients that that's really the also like foundation of savings. You want to have that set up first before you move on to any of your other goals. And we recommend anywhere from 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. And really that fund is there as a, just in case fund. So just in case if you lose your job, experience a medical emergency, you have some cash sitting there. And we also recommend that you put that into a high yield savings fund. That way you're gaining some interest on it. It's not just sitting in the bank earning nothing.
Can you provide sorry to interrupt you, but I think a lot of people don't necessarily know what you mean when you say a high yield savings account. So kind of walk them through what the difference is between having one or just having your money kind of sit in a bank account.
Right. So our regular savings accounts, say like I bank with Chase or there's Bank of America or Wells Fargo. We have a regular savings account, we're probably only earning minimal interest, meaning 0.1%, 0.2%. Whereas in a high yield savings account, right now, interest rates are very high. So you're earning anywhere, say from 3 to 4%. Wow. So you're gaining more interest than just sitting it in a regular savings account. I remember this emergency savings fund money is money that we don't want to touch. So it's just sitting there. So we know we're not going to be pulling from it. That's why we want it sitting there earning as much interest as it can while it's sitting there.
Yep. And then also to piggyback off of what Michelle's saying, she's so right. Like you want to make your money work for you when it's sitting there because you're not using it. And if you leave your money in an account that's not high yield, inflation is slowly eating away at it. So it's just something that you really want to be strategic about. And when the economy is doing weird things, as it is now, you can find a lot more opportunities for higher yield savings accounts than we have historically. So it's a really good time to talk to somebody like Michelle to provide you with some insight as to where you should be parking that money.
Yes, very good point about the inflation, Jenny. And then if you're looking for a high yield savings account, what you could do is go on to NerdWallet or Bankrate. Those are really two good resources that list out, all types of financial accounts that you need. And it gives suggestions, based upon what you're looking for. So you just go in, look for a high yield savings account. You put in your zip code, the amount of money that you want to deposit, and actually will generate a list for you. We also recommend looking at the stronger financial companies, then also what rates they're offering on them.
That's amazing. What about retirement? Is that something like in these initial meetings when you're looking or when you're thinking about budget, just in general, is that something that people should be thinking about?
Yes. So it is something that you should be thinking about, no matter your age. And it is one of your, it could be shorter or longer term goal that you want to save up for. And two factors that you really want to look at when thinking about your retirement are, what age do you want to retire? And how much money are you going to need every year when you retire? Once you have, those two numbers, kind of have a good, idea of how much money you will need to have in retirement. Once we have that, we could come up with a strategic plan of how we're going to get there. We look at Social Security. How much will you be receiving from that annually? You then look at, are you maxing out your employer benefit fund? So are you maxing out your 401k? Are you taking advantage of the employee match? Sorry, then after you are maxing that out, you could then look and see if you're able to contribute to a IRA on your own, whether that be an individual retirement account or a Roth retirement account. And we'll actually do another segment where kind of go over all things retirement. I just kind of wanted to touch, basis on that. And right now for 2023, there are contribution limits for a Roth or individual IRA. If you are under 50, you are able to contribute $6,500. If you're over 50, they give you an extra $1,000 to contribute. So that limit is $7,500.
That's awesome. And I definitely, just so you guys understand, Michelle is a wealth of information about all of these topics. And this episode is really meant to give you a baseline of things that you should be thinking about, just big picture. And we will be doing a little bit deeper dives into some of these categories, because I think it's really important that you hear from her as to how to translate this knowledge of what should be taking place into actuality through tactical steps. So we're definitely going to dive into that a little bit further, but she's just giving you a very high level overview of what to think about.
Right, exactly. There's so much information in the financial world. So we don't want to just like blurt out everything on you in one episode. So that's why we want to be strategic and, break them up for you. But a few other goals that you could save for or are your vacation fund, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. So if you're saving for a down payment on a home, if you want to pay off your debt, so you have a few credit card bills you want to tackle and get rid of. If you want to start your own business, you need to have a plan on how you're going to fund that business. You want to start growing your money by investing in stocks, mutual funds, or also, our furry little pets. They have emergencies too. You always want to make sure that you have some money allocated in case of an emergency for a pet or even for your car. Say if your car breaks down, you need new brakes. Sometimes we don't have that, amount of capital on hand. So we have to borrow it from, our emergency savings fund.
Yeah. And you guys, you would be surprised. A lot of these events that Michelle is touching on can be catastrophic to the average American household. And these are things that, it's funny. When I first started budgeting and meeting with a financial advisor, one of the things that I didn't think about was every single month, you should have a line item as a fixed expense for car maintenance. Because a lot of times car maintenance it's not going to present every month. It's going to be, oh man, got to replace the brakes. That's $1,000. Right. And if you don't have that budget where you're putting money into a pot, that's catastrophic for a lot of people. So, and me personally, I'm obsessed with my dogs. If anything were to happen to them, I would go bankrupt if I didn't have the money to try and help them. Right. So it's just so much peace of mind that is associated with planning.
Yeah.
Those things are huge
There
to
is.
think about.
Mm-hmm. They really are. Yeah, they really are.
Perfect. Well,
Yeah.
let's dive into some of the fun stuff, Michelle. Some of the things that I look up to you about the most is that you know how to be a very strategic person and you plan very well, but you also know how to have fun. And you know how to put money aside for fun. And like I said before, we are going to dive a little bit deeper into this, but just at a very high level, how do you start planning for a vacation? Do you budget throughout the year, or is it just something that, oh, I want to go on vacation, so let's make it happen? How does that work for you?
Right. So I actually have a savings fund just strictly for my vacation. I'm going to look at, what vacations I want to take this year and see, how much do I think that they're going to be, and then set that target goal for myself. And then I break it down into months. So say if I'll just say the vacation is going to cost me $1,000. I'll split that down into 12 months, and I know how much I have to save per month to hit my $1,000 by my travel date. And I think that's, so important. And, some people don't like to do it that way. Some people just like to, just go on their vacations, plan their vacations, just using their, day-to-day funds. Like I was saying before, I like to plan and have a plan just to make sure that I am able to afford it. I know some people can take lavish vacations and we don't know how much they're spending, come back in a hole. So I want to avoid that. And I want to help my clients also avoid that. So you're not coming back like, oh no, what did I do? And then that's even more stressful for yourself, I think. And so a few things that you want to think about when you're setting up that target savings goal is, how much is your airfare going to be? Any other transportation costs? Do you need to rent a car? How are you going to get to and from the airport? Also, accommodation. Are you staying in a hotel? Getting an Airbnb? What about meals and other activities? And then also that discretionary income that you want to bring to spend. Say if you want to get some souvenirs, or say if you're on an island and want to go journey off for the day, you have to have some funds for that as well. So I think that's the first step in setting your savings goal. And then, like I said, when you have a high yield savings account, you could actually split up the account. So one can be for your emergency savings fund. The next could be for a vacation fund. Another one could be for the down payment of a house. And what I do is I have one set up strictly for my vacation. So I know when I go on vacation, I'm just using that account. So I don't have to touch, my other living expenses. And there's also some other travel programs out there that you could utilize to help you save. So two of my favorites when I'm looking at flights are Hopper and then also Google Flights. So they're going to tell me, should I wait and book my flight, say in a few days, and see if I could save money on that, or if they'll go up in prices. Another, useful idea is instead of staying in a hotel, get an Airbnb. Jenny taught us a little about Airbnbs, but different where she's the one, being the host. You could go and stay at, a super host like Jenny's Airbnb, and hopefully that'll save you some money. And another thing, I like to have when I go away, sometimes I like to stay in Airbnb. That will help me save on food. So I know I could go grocery shopping and, cook meals in the Airbnb. Whereas
100%.
I wouldn't have that opportunity sometimes in a hotel unless I had a kitchen. Those are, some travel tips that I like to, use myself, and then also tell my friends or my clients if they're ever asking about them.
Yeah. And then one of the things too that Michelle does really well, going into the theme of making sure that you're planning, is she makes sure that she books these trips very far in advance, right? Like she makes sure that she's looking for, the correct time frame, because the longer you wait, I mean, obviously the more these prices are going to go up because they know that you need it, right?
Exactly.
So always making sure that you're leveraging industry disruptors like applications like Hopper, which is great, Google Flights, which is going to give you literally a streamline to the cheapest prices that are available commercially, right? and taking advantage of Airbnb, which is an industry disruptor for the hotel industry. And then there's a lot of unforeseen savings that you're going to have as a result of that. So just being truly strategic around that and planning. And I can't even, the fact that Michelle has a separate account for her vacation, can you imagine how much peace of mind that brings you when something invariably comes up on vacation, as it will, and you don't have to dip into your expenses for the month? That's great.
And another, topic that I want to talk about vacation planning and spending are travel reward credit cards. Can't tell you, how important it is to utilize these cards, if you can. But there are traditionally two types of travel rewards cards. One is your airline specific. So that's just going to be strictly for the airline. That, say, if you like to travel with Delta or JetBlue all the time, may make sense to just get a reward card for them. Or there's also a general travel reward credit card where, as they're giving you miles or points in general for any airline you're booking, any hotels or other travel expenses on there.
That's perfect. And that's something that I'll be fully transparent with you guys. I struggled with that because I would just get on and try to find the cheapest option that was available. And while that might be, a good methodology from a budget standpoint, you're missing out on a lot. You can truly leverage these points and, being strategic from that standpoint to create an experience that you couldn't have even imagined. And I'm so excited for Michelle to touch deeper on that and get her thoughts on that, because they're obviously, like, we live in the information age and we can really be inundated with all these credit card offers and all this. And we're here to disillusion you that, basically tell you that credit cards are something that you can use to your advantage. They don't always have to be this big bad thing that a lot of times people, I know, a lot of people like Dave Ramsey or some people that are big in the budgeting space will talk to you about how they're not good. And that's just categorically wrong. You just have to use them correctly.
Exactly. If some tips on, using your credit card is just make sure that you're paying off the balance, every month. Try to pay it off fully. If not, at least pay the minimum amount. That way you could avoid any interest charges or any unnecessary late fees.
Yep. And I know we really wanted to dive into the topic about how to increase your income, right? And talking a little bit about side hustles. But before I move on to that, is there anything else that you want to leave people with from a budgeting standpoint, from a tactical standpoint? Is there anything else that you really want to touch on to make sure that everyone has a comprehensive picture as to how to actually get started in this, or what a good takeaway for them to, or good questions that they should be asking?
Yeah. So there's 4 of my most important things. I think that when I'm talking about budget is that you want to pay yourself first and make sure that you're putting your money to your goals or savings accounts first before you go out and spend on those, luxury, or I don't want to say unnecessary, but luxury expenses that you have. So meaning if that's, going out, buying shoes, or going out to eat, for every meal, just the unnecessary expenses that we could try to avoid. Also, another top tip, do not exceed your income. I see a lot of times where people are actually spending more than what they're bringing in. And that becomes tricky. That is not good. So you want to make sure that you're not exceeding your income. And like I touched upon before, a lot of people could think it could be scary, but just remember, like I said, it takes time, and you may not get it the first time you create that budget. And it takes weeks or months of practice of being able to do. And there's also apps out there that can help you. You don't have to go out and make your own budget binder. You can download an app that will help you, look at your accounts every month and help you set up those categories. And another important tip is that if you receive like a bonus at work or a tax refund, say a gift, you want to try not to spend that and put it toward your goals. And that's going to help, saving for your goals even easier.
Absolutely. Okay, let's round this out with a lot of people. First of all, I think a lot of people say this because they just don't look at things strategically and they don't have things, they don't have a plan, right? But they're like, I just don't make enough money. So let's dig in a little bit. What can you do to become more valuable and make more money? What are some strategies that you've seen work for, either your peers or your clients that have helped them to kind of level up and reach their goals faster?
Mm-hmm. Now I'm seeing so many more people, have side hustles that are touching on, say, their passions and not what they're doing in their 9-to-5 jobs. What a side hustle is, and just explain if nobody has heard the term before, but it's just an additional employment opportunity outside of your 9-to-5 and allows you to make supplemental income. So that's income that, is not coming in through your normal salary. It's coming in through the side. Helps you, save more money, make an additional income to use towards your expenses every month. Now, some examples of some popular side hustles that I've seen are you could be doing freelancing work, say if you like journaling, writing articles, find some freelancing work, for some magazines. You could work on social media, website designs, things like that. You could also, I know there's a lot of tutoring opportunities out there, or also coaching opportunities. You can Uber, or also do food delivery for Uber Eats, DoorDash, so that's for some extra income. You could rent out a spare room on Airbnb. I know some people are always a little hesitant, but that is an option if you do have a spare room to make some additional income. You could create an Etsy shop where, say, if you're very creative, like to make crafts and want to sell them, so you can monetize on that. You could also take up dog walking or pet sitting during the day if you have some extra time to set aside for that. You could also sell your items that you no longer use on Facebook Marketplace or Poshmark. I actually do this a lot. It's funny. So I'll go through my clothes every month. If I haven't used it, I'll try to list it on Poshmark, or other furniture or knickknacks that I'm not using, I'll list on Facebook Marketplace to see if I can make some extra income. Or you could also start your own small business. If you want to start your own business, you have to start somewhere. And while you are, still working at your 9-to-5, you could also scale the small business on the side, and then eventually, hopefully you could leave that 9-to-5 and go into business for yourself from there.
Absolutely. And to piggyback off of what Michelle was saying, I used to be the worst culprit when it came to maybe my furniture needed a refresh or my clothes did. And what I've started to do recently is make sure that I'm taking every single opportunity to sell what I can, because what I then do is I take that money that I made off of something that I already possessed and I use it as additional discretionary income. So if I'm going out on the weekends and I want to try a new restaurant, I'm just going to take from the money that I made off that opportunity rather than dipping into my budget. And it's not free money, obviously, but it gives you that feeling where you're not derailing your goals, right? So there's so many opportunities. We live in an economy, the gig economy now, right? And there's so many opportunities to make sure you're capitalizing on that. Obviously that's not a reality for everybody, and not everybody can take advantage of it. The tips that Michelle gave initially from a budgeting standpoint and getting that foundation are of the utmost importance. But if you have other aspirations to continue to grow that discretionary income at a faster rate, these are really amazing opportunities for you to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Awesome. Well, Michelle, thank you so much. I learned so much from you. I always do. So I'm really appreciative of you going through that. And then for everybody, as we do every week, we will release the wine next Monday for you guys to come drink with us on Wine Wednesday. And the topic that we're going to be going over next week is limiting beliefs surrounding money, specifically as they pertain to women. And I know that Michelle and I are really excited to dive into that topic.
We are, yes. So I hope everybody has a good week. We can't wait to see you next week.
Absolutely. You guys have a great week. Go kill it.